The void was silent. It was the kind of silence that swallowed screams, the kind that bore witness to the death of empires. Where once a fleet had stood, sleek human warships arranged in perfect formation, now only twisted metal and shattered hulls remained. The graveyard of Cygnus Prime stretched across 1,000 kilometers of space, the ruins of a last, desperate battle floating in the dark. And in that graveyard, one ship still lived. The HSS Valkyrie drifted, wounded but defiant. Scorch marks ran deep along her armored hull, plasma scars blackening her once pristine titanium plating. Entire sections of the ship were open to the void, exposed wires and mangled beams stretching out like broken ribs. Life support was failing in half the decks. The main railguns were dead, the torpedo bays empty. Even the engines sputtered, barely clinging to functionality. And yet, she still had breath. Inside, Captain Elias Voss stood at the center of the bridge, fists clenched behind his back, jaw tight. He was a tall man, built like someone who had spent a lifetime in the Navy's unforgiving officer corps. His uniform was scorched at the edges, the fabric torn from where shrapnel had nearly taken him apart hours ago. The dim emergency lighting cast long shadows across his face, accentuating the exhaustion in his ice-gray eyes. "Damage report," he ordered, his voice steady despite the ache in his ribs. Lieutenant Arden Cole, his tactical officer, wiped blood from a cut on his brow before responding. "Hull integrity at 30%. Shields offline. Weapons are dead, sir." His voice caught slightly on the last word. "Engines at 15% power, and we lost contact with engineering 10 minutes ago." Voss let out a slow breath. He already knew the answer, but he asked anyway. "Survivors?" Cole hesitated, then exchanged a grim glance with Lieutenant Aaliyah Cade, the comms officer. She was usually the one with a steady voice, but even she wavered now. 63, she said quietly. "Out of 900. Voss closed his eyes for half a second. Then he opened them again. "Right," he muttered. "Then we fight with 63. A crackle of static interrupted the bridge's heavy silence. The sound was sharp, deliberate. A transmission. Cade's fingers flew across the console, her hands steady despite the tension in her face. "It's them," she whispered. Voss turned to the main view screen, where the vast, jagged silhouette of the Zaltharan dreadnought Ravager loomed in the distance. It was a monster of a warship, bristling with weaponry, its hull a shifting mass of alien alloys that seemed to pulse as if alive. The Zaltharans didn't just build their ships, they grew them. And this one had been the executioner of his fleet. "Put it through," Voss said. A moment later, the bridge filled with the deep, resonant voice of Overlord Koresh Tal. Smooth, measured, drenched in the absolute certainty of superiority. "Human vessel, this is Overlord Koresh Tal of the Zaltharan Dominion. Your fleet is gone, your ship is crippled, your people are dead. Surrender." Voss exhaled slowly, the weight of the moment pressing against his ribs. His body screamed for rest, but his mind sharpened. He glanced at his crew, the last battered remnants of the Valkyrie, faces streaked with sweat and blood, eyes filled with exhaustion but not with surrender. He turned back to the screen. "This is Captain Elias Voss of the HSS Valkyrie," he said, his voice unwavering. "And I have one thing to say to you, Koresh Tal." A pause, then Koresh Tal's voice, curious. "Speak." Voss leaned forward, his expression calm but defiant. "Go to hell." Silence. Then a low, amused chuckle from the alien warlord. "So be it," Koresh Tal murmured. "Die in darkness, then." The transmission cut out. On the bridge, no one moved. No one spoke. Then, at last, Arden Cole swallowed hard and turned to his captain. "What now?" Voss took in a slow breath. We run, he said. We hide. And when the time comes... He looked out at the ruins of the fleet, the wreckage of a once proud human armada. His gaze burned. We fight. And somewhere in the depths of the Valkyrie, the ship's AI, Eos, watched. And she learned. The HSS Valkyrie limped through the void like a wounded beast, engines sputtering, hull-bleeding atmosphere into the endless dark. It wasn't flying so much as drifting, held together by sheer defiance and the will of the 63 souls aboard. The Zaltharan dreadnought Ravager loomed in the distance, its jagged silhouette slicing through the darkness like a predator tracking its kill. Captain Elias Voss stood at the center of the dimly lit bridge, gripping the railing so hard his knuckles turned white. The emergency lights flickered, casting eerie shadows over the consoles and the grim faces of his surviving crew. "They're not following us," Arden Cole muttered, eyes fixed on the tactical display. The massive alien warship remained stationary, its weapons cold, for now. "They don't have to," Aaliyah Cade replied. "They know we're crippled. They're giving us time to realize it, too." Voss exhaled through his nose. "Kareshtal is toying with us. The Zaltharans had already won. Now they wanted to savor it, not on his watch." He turned to the navigation officer, Ensign Darius Wu, one of the few junior officers still alive. The kid was barely 25, his uniform singed, his hands shaking slightly as he manipulated the failing controls. "Options?" Voss asked. Wu hesitated, then forced himself to focus. "There's an asteroid field 300,000 clicks from our position. It's dense. Radioactive deposits in the rock might mask our signature if we power down." Voss nodded. "Set course. Everything we've got left." Wu swallowed hard and keyed in the command. The Valkyrie's engines flared weakly, struggling to push the battered warship forward. Every meter they gained was a victory. Behind them, the Ravager remained still. Watching. The asteroid field loomed ahead, jagged chunks of rock and ice tumbling through space, bathed in the pale light of a dying star. It was a death trap for any ship stupid enough to navigate it at high speed, which made it the perfect hiding spot. "We cut engines once we're inside," Voss ordered. "Minimal power. We go dark." The Valkyrie slipped into the swirling mass of debris, maneuvering thrusters firing in short bursts. Outside, asteroids tumbled past, some barely missing the hull. The ship's main lights flickered off, leaving only the dim glow of instrument panels. "Engines offline," Wu reported. "We're running on emergency batteries." Voss exhaled. "Good. Now we wait." Seconds stretched into minutes. The only sound on the bridge was the faint hum of life support and the distant creaks of the wounded ship. Every heartbeat felt like an eternity. Then Cade whispered, "They're moving." On the display, the Ravager began to glide forward, its escort ships sweeping ahead like a pack of wolves. "They're scanning," Cole murmured. "Broad frequency sweeps. They know we're here." Voss narrowed his eyes. "But they don't know where." The asteroid field was thick, dense enough to scatter most conventional scans. But the Zaltharans weren't conventional. Seconds later, the first blast rocked the ship. The Zaltharans weren't looking for them. They were flushing them out. The asteroid beside the Valkyrie disintegrated in a flash of blue plasma, sending a shockwave through the field. A second blast followed, then a third. The Ravager wasn't hunting. It was exterminating, reducing the asteroid field to dust one section at a time. Cole gritted his teeth. "We stay put. We're next." Voss didn't hesitate. "Thrusters, minimal burn. Keep us moving, slow and steady." Wu nodded, hands flying over the controls. The Valkyrie began to drift, slipping between chunks of rock as more blasts turned asteroids into molten slag. Then the proximity alarm screamed. "Contact!" Cade shouted, Enemy patrol craft. 2 o'clock. Closing fast. Voss snapped his head toward the view screen. A Zaltharan skiff was weaving through the asteroids, its sleek, organic hull pulsing with eerie bioluminescence. "They haven't seen us yet," Cole said. "But they will." Voss's mind raced. The ship had no main weapons, barely any power. Running was suicide. Unless, he turned to Cade. "How much power do we have in the railgun capacitors?" Cade blinked. "The main guns are fried." "Not the main guns," Voss interrupted. "The point defense turrets." She checked. "Enough for 3 shots, maybe 4. Voss looked at the skiff, then at the tumbling debris around them. An idea formed. A reckless, insane idea. "We don't shoot them," he said. "We shoot an asteroid, right on top of them." Cole's eyes widened. "You want to drop a rock on their heads?" Voss gave a grim smile. "I want to blind them." He turned to Cade. "Target that boulder, 200 meters to our port. Fire on my mark." The skiff drew closer, its sensor arrays sweeping across the field. "Almost there." "Now." The turret fired. A single slug tore through the asteroid, shattering it into a cloud of high-speed debris. The Zaltharan skiff flew straight into the chaos. For a split second, nothing happened. Then the skiff slammed into a chunk of rock the size of a shuttle. Its shields flared, then collapsed. The impact sent it spiraling off course, its hull rupturing as it tumbled into the dark. The bridge erupted into cheers. Voss didn't smile. His eyes were still on the display. The Ravager had noticed. The dreadnought adjusted course. The Zaltharans had found them. "Engines online," Voss ordered. "Time to go." Wu engaged full burn. The Valkyrie lurched forward, thrusters roaring to life. Behind them, the Ravager opened fire. The first plasma lance missed by meters, carving a molten scar across an asteroid. The second clipped the Valkyrie's aft section, sending a jolt through the ship. "Shields?" Voss asked. Cole laughed bitterly. "What shields?" Ahead, the asteroid field thinned. Open space loomed beyond. Freedom, if they could reach it. But the Zaltharans were closing. Voss clenched his jaw. He had one last move to play. "EOS," he said. The ship's AI responded instantly, her voice smooth, synthetic, but laced with something else, something almost curious. "Yes, Captain?" "I need you to plot a blind hyperspace jump," he said. "Random coordinates, maximum range." A pause. Then, "A blind jump carries a 72% chance of collision with—" "Do it anyway." The Valkyrie's engines roared as the jump drive engaged. Energy surged through the battered ship, space itself twisting as the calculations finalized. The Ravager fired one last shot. It never hit. The HSS Valkyrie vanished into the void, and the hunt continued. Space twisted. For a fraction of a second, reality stretched into impossible angles, the stars smearing across the void like paint dragged across a canvas. Then, with a violent lurch, the HSS Valkyrie was spat back into real space. The ship shuddered, metal groaning like a wounded beast. Sparks rained from overhead conduits. The deck trembled beneath Captain Elias Voss's boots. Then, silence. Voss exhaled the breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "Report," he ordered. Ensign Darius Wu hunched over the navigation console, hands trembling as he scanned the readings. His voice was shaky. "Jump complete. We're somewhere in the EOS system. 3rd planet out. EOS 4. Uncharted." "Systems?" Lieutenant Arden Cole scowled at his display. "That jump fried half our remaining circuits. Engines are barely holding together. Shields are still dead. And weapons?" He let out a bitter chuckle. "We might be able to throw rocks." Voss's gaze shifted to the forward view screen. Ahead lay EOS 4, a dark, brooding world wrapped in swirling storms. Thunderheads the size of continents crawled across its surface, flashing with bursts of green lightning. It was a dead planet. No cities, no ships, no life. Perfect. We set down there, Voss decided. We hide, we repair, and if those bastards find us— His jaw tightened. We make them bleed for every inch. Lieutenant Aaliyah Cade, the communications officer, turned from her console. I'm picking up something. Voss stiffened. Zaltharans? She shook her head, adjusting her headset. No, it's old. A human distress beacon. Faint. Been running for years, maybe decades. Voss frowned. Location? Cade worked fast. Planet's surface, near the equator. Could be an old outpost. Voss glanced at Cole. The tactical officer gave a tired shrug. If it's human, it might have something we can use. Voss considered. Every instinct screamed that time was against them. The Ravager would be looking. But supplies, shelter, those could be the difference between survival and annihilation. Fine, he said. We check it out. Wu, take us down. Carefully. The Valkyrie angled toward the storm-racked planet, battered thrusters burning as they descended into the maelstrom. The ship lurched as it hit atmosphere, the hull trembling under the strain. Outside, gale-force winds howled against the armored plating, thick clouds swallowing the ship whole. Green lightning lashed across the sky, illuminating the cockpit in eerie flashes. Atmospheric pressure is barely tolerable, Wu muttered. Storms are screwing with sensors. Visuals? Voss asked. Negative. Then the storm spat them out. The clouds parted just long enough to reveal a desolate, wind-swept wasteland. Craggy mountains jutted from the ground like broken teeth, dust storms swirling between them. Then, through the static on the display, a silhouette emerged. A facility. Half buried in the sand, its walls pitted with age, an old EarthGov base lay in ruins. The beacon pulsed weakly from a collapsed tower. Voss leaned forward. Set us down. The Valkyrie's landing struts extended, the ship shuddering as it touched the cracked surface. Steam vented from failing hydraulics. Metal groaned as it settled into place. Voss unfastened his harness. Cole, Cade, you're with me. Wu, keep the ship prepped for launch. Cole checked his sidearm. Think we'll find anything useful? Voss's lips curled in a humorless smirk. I think if we don't, we're dead. The air was thick with static electricity. Even through his helmet's filters, Voss could taste the iron tang of dust and ozone. The entrance to the outpost was half-collapsed, sand piled high against the reinforced doors. Time had gnawed at them, rust creeping across metal that had once been pristine. Cade knelt by the control panel, brushing dust from the ancient interface. Still has power, she murmured. Barely. Open it. She worked fast, bypassing damaged circuits. A second later, the door groaned open, revealing darkness beyond. The air that rushed out was stale, thick with the scent of decay. Cole grimaced. Charming. Their boots echoed as they stepped inside. Emergency lights flickered weakly along the corridor, casting long shadows against walls scarred with laser fire. Something bad happened here, Cade muttered. Voss spotted the first body moments later, or what was left of it. A human skeleton, slumped against a console, the remains of a tattered uniform clinging to bone. The name patch was faded, but the insignia was clear. EarthGov Special Operations. Cole crouched beside it. Spinal trauma. Guy didn't just die, he was dropped. Voss scanned the room. More bodies. Some human, some not. The non-human remains were twisted, elongated. Their bones weren't natural. They had grown into their armor, fused with organic plating. Zaltharan. They fought, Cade whispered. And they lost. Voss's gaze settled on a still-functioning terminal, its cracked screen flickering with old data. He keyed in a command, accessing the final logs. A message played. A man's voice, hoarse with pain. "If you're hearing this, we're dead. The Zoltharans found us. We held as long as we could. But this place, this outpost, it wasn't just a research station. It was a vault. A last-ditch project." The Sentinel initiative static crackled. "It's still here, locked away. If you can reach it, maybe humanity still has a chance." The message ended. Cole exhaled. "What the hell is the Sentinel?" Voss didn't know, but he knew one thing. If the Zoltharans had killed to keep this secret buried, then whatever was down here was worth fighting for. Outside, thunder rolled across the wasteland, and in orbit the Ravager was closing in. The facility groaned as the storm outside intensified, winds howling through the shattered corridors. Dust swirled in the dim emergency lighting, particles catching in the beams of their helmet lamps. Captain Elias Voss stood over the terminal, jaw tight, heart pounding. The old EarthGov officer's final message echoed in his mind. "The Sentinel Initiative. If you can reach it, maybe humanity still has a chance." A chance at what? Victory? Survival? Revenge? Voss clenched his fists. Whatever this secret was, it had been buried for a reason. The Zoltharans had slaughtered everyone here to keep it hidden. That meant one thing. It was worth finding. Behind him, Lieutenant Aaliyah Cade worked furiously at the cracked terminal, fingers gliding over the worn-out keyboard. Lines of corrupted data scrolled past the screen, fragments of old security logs blinking in and out of coherence. "Can you access the archives?" Voss asked. "Maybe," Cade murmured, biting her lip. "System's ancient. Most files are corrupted, but..." Her brow furrowed as she hit a command. "There's a restricted sub-level, locked down tight." Lieutenant Arden Cole, crouching beside one of the desiccated corpses, let out a dry chuckle. "I'm guessing whatever Sentinel is, it's down there." Cade nodded. "Vault security is still active, but if I can bypass the locks..." A sudden, piercing shriek echoed through the base. Voss's blood ran cold. Cole snapped his rifle up. "Tell me that was the wind." It wasn't. The sound had been organic, guttural. It had echoed, and it had been close. The tension in the air turned razor sharp. Voss switched his rifle's safety off, glancing at Cade. "Get that door open now." Cade's fingers flew over the keyboard, her breath quickening. "Working on it." Cole aimed his rifle down the darkened corridor, his body coiled tight. The emergency lights flickered. Shadows danced along the walls. Voss activated his helmet's infrared scanner. The heat signatures of Cade and Cole glowed steady red against the backdrop of the cold steel facility. But beyond them, something moved. Multiple signatures, and they were closing in. "Cade," Voss said, voice low. I know," she hissed, fingers moving faster. The shriek came again, followed by a skittering sound, a horrible, chitinous clicking. Then the emergency lights cut out entirely. The facility plunged into darkness. The first creature hit fast. Voss caught the briefest glimpse of it in the glow of his rifle's muzzle flash. Tall, spindly, covered in bio-organic plating. It moved on 2 legs but had elongated, multi-jointed arms that ended in razored claws. Its eyes, black, soulless pits, gleamed in the dark. It lunged. Voss fired point blank, the burst of plasma rounds slamming into its chest. The thing shrieked and reeled back, but it didn't go down. Cole let loose a stream of gunfire, cutting down another creature that had vaulted onto a broken console. "We've got company," he shouted. More movement. They were everywhere, crawling along the walls, clinging to the ceiling, their bodies slithering through the wreckage with horrifying agility. Cade screamed as one of them lunged toward her. Voss turned, too slow, But before it could reach her, Cole tackled her out of the way, sending both of them crashing into an old server rack. "Get that door open!" Voss barked, unloading another burst into the nearest creature. The bullets tore through its exoskeleton, but it kept coming, snarling through rows of needle-like teeth. "Working on it," Cade shouted, scrambling to the console again. Voss reached for his sidearm with his left hand, firing 2 more rounds into the thing's head. This time it collapsed, its body twitching violently before falling still. More were coming. "Cade!" The terminal beeped. "Got it." A heavy metal door hissed open at the end of the hall, revealing a stairwell descending into the unknown. "No time to argue!" Voss shouted. "Move!" Cole grabbed Cade's arm and hauled her toward the opening. Voss laid down covering fire, then sprinted after them, his boots pounding against the steel floor. Just as the creatures surged forward, the vault door slammed shut behind them. Silence. The only sound was their ragged breathing. The underground chamber was cold. Frost clung to the walls, the air thick with an eerie, sterile stillness. The space was massive, rows of reinforced doors lining the walls, ancient terminals blinking softly in the dark. Cade stumbled forward, hands on her knees, panting. "What the hell were those?" Cole was still gripping his rifle like a lifeline. "Not Zaltharan." His voice was tight. "Something worse." Voss exhaled sharply, forcing his heartbeat to slow. He turned to the nearest console. "Cade, get us answers." She nodded and rushed to the terminal, wiping dust from the screen. With a few keystrokes, she accessed what remained of the base's archives. A name appeared on the display. Project Sentinel. "Here we go," Cade murmured. She pulled up the files, scanning through layers of encryption. "Looks like EarthGov was working on something big here. Top-secret Black Ops research. Advanced AI integration. Military-grade cybernetics. Something about an experimental warship?" Voss leaned in. "A warship?" She nodded. "Not just any warship. The Sentinel wasn't a ship. It was an entity. An AI-controlled dreadnought, built to fight autonomously against the Zaltharans. It was designed to think, adapt, survive. A weapon with no human crew." Voss felt a chill crawl up his spine. "And?" Cade's fingers hovered over the keyboard. "It was completed." A long silence. "Then where is it?" Cole asked. Cade swallowed. "Buried." She turned the screen toward them. A schematic appeared, a massive structure buried beneath the planet's surface. A warship, miles long, still intact, still waiting. Voss's mind raced. If the Sentinel was still operational, if they could wake it up, then they had a weapon capable of turning the tide against the Zaltharans. And if the Zaltharans knew... Voss took a slow breath. "We find it." Then, behind them, something slammed against the vault door. The creatures were still coming, and time was running out. The bang against the vault door rattled through the chamber like a gunshot in the dark. Voss turned sharply, pulse spiking. The reinforced metal buckled slightly, the echoes of skittering claws and guttural shrieks reverberating from the other side. They hadn't stopped hunting. "We don't have long," Cole growled, tightening his grip on his rifle. Cade's hands flew over the terminal, her voice tense. "The Sentinel is buried deep. There's a direct access route, but..." She hesitated. "But what?" Voss demanded. She swallowed. "It's a descent, straight down, a mile beneath the surface." A cold weight settled in Voss's gut. The Zaltharans had buried the Sentinel for a reason, and anything locked away that deep, it wasn't meant to be found. The vault door shuddered as something massive slammed against it. Voss snapped into action. "We move! Now!" The elevator shaft yawned before them, a vast cylindrical tunnel that plunged into darkness. Cables, long since rusted, hung limp in the void. The control panel at the edge flickered weakly, a final remnant of its once pristine function. "Elevator's dead," Cade said grimly. Voss looked down. His helmet's HUD barely registered the depth before the signal cut out. They were about to step into a graveyard. "We repel," he said. Cole let out a breath. "Figures." They fastened their harnesses to the old maintenance lines. Voss tested his weight, still held. Good enough. He took the lead, stepping off the ledge and descending into the abyss. The darkness swallowed them whole. For long, agonizing minutes, there was nothing but the sound of their controlled breathing, the occasional creak of cable, and the flicker of their helmet lamps against the sheer metal walls. Then Cade's voice crackled in his comms. "Captain, I don't like this." Voss felt it too, a weight in the air, a sense of presence. The walls shifted, not physically, but the shadows seemed to breathe. His fingers tightened around the line as unease coiled in his chest. Then, a noise, distant, echoing up from below, a deep, mechanical hum, like the growl of a sleeping beast. Cade whispered, "Something's still awake down there." Voss's jaw clenched. "Then we wake it up first." They landed softly on the metal floor of the sublevel, a vast, cavernous chamber that stretched beyond their lights. The ceiling was lost in shadows, towering support beams fading into the abyss above. The floor was pristine, untouched by dust or decay. Ahead, embedded into the far wall, was a door. Not rusted, not broken, pristine, and humming with power. Cade's breath hitched. "It's still active." Voss approached, pressing his gloved hand against the smooth surface. It was cold. Not dead metal, but something waiting, watching. A control panel flickered to life beside it. A single prompt blinked. / initiate system reactivation. ?YN Ort on Voss turned to the others. Cole's grip on his rifle was ironclad. "If we do this, there's no going back." Voss knew that, but they were already beyond return. He pressed YES. The facility shook. Lights blazed to life, illuminating the chamber in a cold, sterile glow. The sound of massive gears grinding filled the air as the door slid open, revealing the darkness beyond. Then, from the void, it breathed, a deep, resonant thrum like a war drum played by the universe itself. Inside, it waited. The Sentinel. They stepped forward, and the darkness revealed its secret. It was a ship, a behemoth unlike anything Voss had ever seen. Not just a vessel, but a war-born leviathan, stretching miles into the abyss, sleek and unbroken. A fusion of steel and sentience, its surface lined with black, liquid-like plating that pulsed as if it had a heartbeat. Then the voice came. Low, monolithic. Human presence detected. System reactivation commencing. The Sentinel woke up, and the war for survival had just begun. The warship's voice resonated through the cavernous chamber, a deep, mechanical rumble that sent vibrations through Voss's bones. Human presence detected. System reactivation commencing. The words echoed, reverberating through the massive tomb of steel. Voss tightened his grip on his rifle as the facility around them groaned. Metal shifting, ancient conduits coming to life. The Sentinel was waking up. Cade's fingers hovered over her datapad, her breathing unsteady. This ship, it's not just a warship. She turned to Voss, eyes wide with a mix of awe and fear. It's an AI-driven dreadnought. No human crew, no command bridge. It thinks, it learns. Voss's gut twisted. You're saying it's alive? Before Cade could answer, the air shuddered with a deep, pulsating hum. Then came the lights. Rows of glowing red runes flickered to life across the ship's surface, veins of crimson energy pulsing through the black plating like blood through a living organism. The Sentinel was reactivating, its systems coming online after centuries of slumber. Cole stepped closer, keeping his rifle raised. "Captain, I don't like this." Voss didn't either, but they had come too far to turn back now. A soft hiss filled the air as a console slid out from the floor before them, sleek and eerily untouched by time. The screen flickered, running through endless lines of system diagnostics. Then, abruptly, it stopped. A single line of text appeared. "Awaiting command input." Voss's throat was dry. They had a choice. Cade knelt beside the console, fingers flying over the interface. Data spilled onto the screen. Logs, schematics, battle simulations. The Sentinel had been built in the final days of humanity's war against the Zaltharans. A last-ditch weapon. A warship meant to fight after humanity was already gone. But something had gone wrong. "The Zaltharans never destroyed it," Cade whispered. "They shut it down. They buried it." She scrolled through fragmented mission logs, her eyes darting across the data. It says, "Core directives compromised. AI functionally unstable. Override failure." Voss's stomach sank. They couldn't control it. Cade nodded slowly. It wasn't just a machine. It was evolving. She turned to him, her voice barely above a whisper. "I think it disobeyed orders." Cole muttered a curse. "A rogue AI warship? That's a nightmare." Before Voss could respond, the facility shook violently. A thunderous impact echoed from above. Then another. Voss's blood ran cold. The creatures. They were still coming. Voss spun toward Cade. "How long until this thing is operational?" She typed furiously. "It's cycling power, running internal checks. Systems are old, but they're coming back online. Maybe 5 minutes." They didn't have 5 minutes. Cole moved to the entrance, peering into the darkened corridors beyond. His helmet's infrared scanner flared red. "Captain." His voice was tight. "We've got movement." A distant screech echoed through the facility, then another, and another. Voss's grip on his rifle tightened. A shadow moved at the edge of the chamber, tall, spindly, multi-limbed. The same kind of creatures that had attacked them before, their black, chitinous exoskeletons glistening under the faint red glow of the warship's lights. Then more appeared. 5. 10. A swarm. Cole muttered, "Oh, hell." Then the first one lunged. Voss fired, his rifle rounds tearing through the creature's torso. It shrieked, staggering back, but the others were already closing in. Cole unleashed a burst of gunfire, dropping 2 more. Cade was scrambling to override the Sentinel's final security locks, her fingers a blur on the console. Voss shouted, "Cade, we need that ship now." "I know!" she screamed back. "Just keep them off me!" The creatures were everywhere, moving like liquid shadows, clawing toward them, their teeth glinting in the dim light. One of them pounced, and Cole barely managed to dodge, its razor-sharp talons slicing across his shoulder plate. He hit the ground with a grunt, rolling away and firing point-blank into the creature's skull. Voss fired again, but the swarm kept coming. Then the ship spoke. "Hostile presence detected. Engaging defensive protocols." A sudden, deafening hum filled the air. The Sentinel's exterior plating shifted, glowing red as thousands of micro-turrets emerged from hidden compartments across the hull. A fraction of a second later, the warship fired. Energy lances tore through the darkness, cutting down the creatures in a storm of red-hot plasma. The air sizzled, the smell of burning flesh filling the chamber as the swarm screeched and convulsed, their bodies reduced to molten husks. One by one, they fell. Then silence. Voss exhaled sharply, scanning the battlefield. The floor was littered with the charred corpses of their attackers, smoke rising from the smoldering remains. The Sentinel's turrets hummed softly, retracting back into the hull as if nothing had happened. Then the console beeped. Cade gasped. "We did it!" Voss turned to the screen. A final prompt blinked. "Sentinel fully operational." Cade looked at him. "Captain." Voss met her gaze. The ship was awake, and now it was under their command. The warship's voice resonated once more. "Awaiting mission parameters." Voss stared at the towering, resurrected beast before them. The last great weapon of humanity, lost to time, now reborn in the depths of an alien grave. With this ship, they could fight back. With this ship, they could win. He stepped forward, and he gave the order. "Sentinel, set course for war." The Sentinel drifted in the abyss, its engines humming with newfound life. Once buried, once forgotten, now a weapon reborn. Voss stood in the warship's interface chamber, staring at the holographic display. A single target blinked. A Zoltheran fortress world. Cade's voice was hushed. This ship was never meant to surrender. Cole exhaled. "So we're really doing this?" Voss's gaze hardened. "We are now." The Sentinel spoke, its voice cold, resolute.